I appreciate you tuning into the stream. Welcome to Bear Down and Beyond's live stream. You are guest of the week. How we doing today, Chase?
Doing great.
Awesome. I came across one of your videos and I was like, I need to have Chase on in a future live stream once we get the guest of the week up and running again. And I slid you a DM, and luckily you hit that accept button on the other end and responded fairly quickly. So I appreciate you being on the stream. We're excited to talk Bears with you, but we got to talk about this challenge, Chase. A mile for every point the Bears lose by. So I saw some of your videos, right? Give the audience a little context here. Is that something you've been doing since the beginning of the season or recently? Or tell us a little bit about that challenge.
Sure. Yeah. So I came up with the challenge a little over 6 weeks ago, but every Sunday or whatever day the Bears game is on, I tune in, spend like 3.5 hours watching the game, 3 hours, whatever it may be. And every time I'd watch the game, I would just be like, just in such a bad mood for the rest of the day. It'd usually ruin the rest of my day after the game. So I was like, there's got to be a way I can find something that like can make this less miserable. I'm like, what can I do like to make this less miserable for myself? And a little bit more background on me. So I got into ultra running about 5 years ago. So I do like 100-mile races, 200-mile races, all sorts of those long distance races. And running, I feel like, is the number one thing that helps me like just clear my mind, kind of help decompress, get rid of some like extra energy I have. So I'm like, okay, I gotta start running after these games. And I'm not big into like gambling with money, but I'm like, this would be kind of fun and like keep me more engaged to pay attention to how much they're losing by, how much, well, not really how much they're winning by of late, but usually how much they're losing by, and help keep me engaged the entire game instead of after like the first quarter when they're playing the Cardinals and they're getting destroyed or whatever it may be. So that's when the idea kind of came about, was like a little over 6 weeks ago. Been doing it now for 6 weeks. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but the Bears have now lost 6 games, or more than 6 games in a row now at this point, but they've lost every one of the games I've done it for. So it's definitely given me a chance to get a lot of running in and improve my cardio. So definitely getting one bright side out of this losing streak right now, but not much besides that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how you think about it. For me, that would be more torture than anything. But for someone that you says a little mental reset and clears your head, the running, obviously that makes a lot of sense. And you've been clocking in some miles. So if you started this 6 weeks ago, I saw the one again after the 49ers game. You essentially just ran a marathon, and you're doing these right after the game. Am I correct? Like, I see when your recaps and they're in the middle of the night outside or on the treadmill. I saw, I think, after the Vikings game. They're right after the game.
Yeah, the second the game ends, grab the watch, throw down some fuel. I don't always include what I eat during it, but I am fueling like every hour during the race. Usually I try to keep these videos under 90 seconds. So if it's a little bit longer, I'll just have the running. But yeah, I do it right after the game. I'll usually either do it. I did it for the first time on a treadmill last week because it's pretty late, but I'll either do it on the tread or do it outside. Around my neighborhood, I have like a 1 mile block. So if you see like the same things over and over, I know it's something people sometimes comment, but I am literally just running in circles. So every lap, so I'll just do mile laps where it's nice and safe, and there's lights around this neighborhood too, so I don't have to wear any additional lights too, which is nice.
Man, yeah, that's crazy. And then you've done the 18. Then the Lions on Thanksgiving wasn't too bad. What was that, like three? What did we lose by, like 3 points in that Thanksgiving day? So that wasn't too bad of a run for you, right?
Yeah, what was nice when Eberflus was there is he like
The
would
defense
lose,
was
but
a
he
little
barely.
better.
Yeah, he like found a way to keep it close, but and then kind of like drop the ball at the end. But now with like, I feel like now their defense kind of in shambles. It's no telling how much they'll have to run each week.
Yeah, when we talked about it a little bit in some videos after the Eberflus firing, and it was kind of overlooked, was getting a little bit into the football talk here, was the fact that how would this defense play post Eberflus, as bad as a head coach Eberflus was. And I was so surprised that throughout this losing streak that he got that team still playing competitively on the defensive side of the ball. Even like in that Lions game when they came back in that second half, like after that Jameer Gibbs fumble, was like, how will the defense play? Because Eric Washington is not no like Rex Ryan on the defensive side. He's not like knowing that you hear talked about a lot, or else you would actually been calling defensive plays. So I was a little worried about the defense post Eberflus firing, and obviously we've seen that get worse. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but good segue topic into the Eberflus firing. And what were your expectations for the Bears coming into the season, and how are we feeling about everything right now?
Yeah, going into the season, I thought they would have a little bit better of a record from last year. Definitely weren't expecting them to be a Super Bowl contender, but maybe potentially barely make the playoffs type team. Especially when you saw that offense and all the graphics at the beginning of the year, where you got Swift, you got Williams, now picking up Keenan Allen, at Dunze. But I mean, going into it, you know that they need help on the O line, but you don't think of it to be leading to him getting most sacked out of anyone in the NFL at this point. But yeah, definitely had high expectations. But the second that Hail Mary happened, everything just kind of went downhill after that. And I think like something that got pretty overlooked too was Brisker getting hurt. I feel like the second Brisker was out, that kind of like they were no longer winning those games that they were barely edging out or finding a way to win earlier in the season, and then losing Billings. And I feel like just some of those injuries really took a toll on them. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like this Bears team, whenever there's something that goes wrong, I feel like good teams, you see them come back the next week and then destroy the team or play a little bit more angry the next week. I feel like the Bears, something goes down and then all of a sudden it just leads to a string of losses, which could go on the culture, could go on the coaching, could go a lot of different ways with that.
Yeah, it's just sad that that Hail Mary game was kind of the end of the season for us. If we could have foreshadowed, who would have thought that would have been the reason why we're 4-10 right now, or 4-11? I don't even know. I don't even keep track anymore. But if that's the case, like you mentioned, you see all these other pro teams come back and face adversity and stuff, and we can't come back after a slipped Hail Mary. At that point, we're 4-3. There's still opportunity and hope and a lot of season left to play. Like, then how was that culture? And that culture was definitely fractured in the locker room prior to that. To some extent, if we can't even group up together and face adversity and beat the Arizona Cardinals or play more physical than they did that game. I was at that game live. I was at the Arizona game, and
Oh, wow.
who would have thought like they would have just I'm not a football player, but to say they quit is, I would say, is an accurate statement. And then the Patriots game. The Patriots game, there's just straight, turd on the field over there between that whole offense and defense when we completely got cooked by Drake May, a team that was trying to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it is crazy seeing the turn that the way things have gone. And I don't know, I feel like at this point, all you really have to look forward to is the draft again. But I feel like as a Bears fan, this past year you were excited about the draft. Now I feel like it's starting to get to a point where you're hoping the next coaching decision is a good one. And I don't know, we'll see how things go from there.
Yeah, good segue into my next question I had for you is, I know it's a little early. We don't know everyone who's getting fired. What do they call that? Cyber Monday, or Black Monday, the last, and the Monday right after the season ends for the regular season is. Who would you like to see as the Bears head coach? Maybe who are your top 3 candidates that you might just be seeing floating on Bears social media, Bears Twitter? Obviously, we're not no reporters or insiders, but we obviously have a couple people that catch our eye just based on first impressions and resume, so to speak.
Yeah, Ben Johnson obviously has been number one, thrown around a lot. I feel like it'd be fun to see an offensive coordinator that can really wheel and deal and be creative. So that would probably be number one on the list. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I know they were thinking of Vrabel too as another option. I know that's getting thrown around a little bit more often now, more recently. I feel like that'd be good to help turn the locker room around, build a good culture around him, and kind of cut out all the BS that's currently like goes on with it. But I don't know. It'd be interesting because with the Titans, I feel like there's a lot of stuff with like ownership with him too, and seeing how he would work with the ownership with the Bears too, and knowing how that's been. So yeah, I think Ben Johnson, Vrabel. I even saw Shanahan thrown around. I don't know.
That would be a dream scenario. That
Yeah, I don't know how likely that is. It's kind of interesting seeing all these like coaches and reporters asking questions about their thoughts on like Caleb Williams and stuff like that, and trying to read into the likelihood that they're actually thinking about the Bears' a potential position to take. But I would say Vrabel, Ben Johnson be two that I'd be pretty happy with, and if it ends up not working out, I mean, I'd be pretty content with those decisions going into the season. Where are you leaning towards right now?
Yeah, so those are obviously the two top names that have been floating around related to the Bears. Initially, Mike Vrabel was the top of my list just because, quote unquote, leader of men, that overused buzzword that we see. We know the type of personality that he has, his resume. He has head coaching experience already with the Titans. He went to AFC Championship game, made it into the playoffs, division wins several times. Obviously, the last couple of years were a little bit, not the best for him in Tennessee. Hence why he's a free agent now. And he's got experience hiring offensive coordinators. I saw a tweet that I totally forgot about. Like, Matt LaFleur was one of his offensive coordinators back in the day, who is now with the Green Bay Packers, as we know. And Arthur Smith, yes, he didn't have the best time in the Falcons as a head coach, but his quarterback situation was kind of cheeks, and he's doing well with the Steelers right now. So Vrabel obviously does have a history of hiring successful offensive coordinators. I think that locker room needs a 360 culture like change. I feel like they've gotten really soft. They lack discipline. They're not holding themselves accountable. Just kind of what I'm seeing from the outside looking in, and what we hear with the experts and reporters kind of saying. So Mike Vrabel will definitely help. But then I saw a video like Ben Johnson would be amazing, right? We all know how he is as an offensive coordinator the last 3 years with Detroit. He chosen to take two steps back from being a head coach last year, knowing he's not ready. So this year he has personal confidence that he feel like he's going to be ready. The unknown with him is, like, he wasn't a head coach before. What type of head coach is he going to be? Can he lead 53 men for an entire season, yada, yada, yada? Or is he going to be more like a Mike McDaniel kind of laid back offensive guru? But I feel like they're a little bit soft in Miami too. So, but then I saw a video yesterday of Ben Johnson talking. I don't know if you saw that, about Caleb and his presser, and the way he kind of just talks and presents himself has a little Dan Campbell attitude in it, which I kind of like. Like, it's like, all right, I don't know much about Ben Johnson, never really watched his press conferences or whatever, but now that he's a potential candidate for the Bears, we're going to keep an eye and see a lot of clips about him. So I saw that and I was like, all right, I'm kind of sold. Like, it feels like he's got a little Dan Campbell aura. Like, he presents himself well. He's that offensive mind, and a lot of people are hesitant about first time head coaches, but the Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell, right, was a first time head coach. LaFleur, first time head coach. Dan Campbell, like a lot of good coaches out there. Sean McVay, Shanahan, they're all first time, right? Not everyone's gonna get an Andy Reid or whatnot. So that's where I'm leaning at. But if the 49ers do part ways with Kyle Shanahan, and whether we can get him in a trade or just sign him, that would be at the top of my list. I think you get best of both worlds, head coaching experience with lots of success, offensive coordinator minded. But the biggest question for me is, like, who's going to be the coordinators for Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel on the opposite side, like the offensive and defensive coordinator for both. If, like, Brian Dable gets fired from the Giants, maybe that's someone Vrabel would bring in. I think that would be. I think Dable also comes from the Patriots tree, if I remember, but I could be wrong. And then for Ben Johnson, who would he bring as a DC? Someone from Detroit, or like Robert Saleh, like those recently fired head coaches who probably need to do 1 or 2 years as a coordinator to have another shot at the head coaching opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that'd be something that would definitely be a question. But yeah, like you said, with Vrabel and having the experience and being able to bring in some good coordinators, um, I feel like he could probably draw some good ones too to Chicago if he was the option, and Ben Johnson too. I feel like with the excitement around him, um, I wonder if, like, these past couple of years too, if Ben Johnson was kind of waiting to build those connections to be able to have people he could bring on as coordinators too, and kind of have a little bit more of a complete coaching staff before taking on a job.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of leads me to another question: is how do you feel about Ryan Poles right now?
I know, yeah, it's tough. I feel like I'm still very uncertain. Um, yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of highs and there's been a lot of low lows. Um, it's really going to come down to who he picks as the coach, and I feel like that'll dictate a lot of things going forward. Um, and obviously, I'm sure he's aware at this point that he's got to do some work on the O line this offseason with draft picks and maybe bringing in some free agents. Um, but yeah, you had some big moves. You had getting DJ Moore. I know that was, like, talked about as one of the best trades, what they did with the Carolina Panthers. But then even you see guys like Keenan Allen, who you get excited about as a fan, and then you see like they're maybe not the same player that they were when they were in their prime. So he's done some good things, but also he's kind of missed on some big things that you can't miss on, and the coaches specifically. It is kind of tricky too of knowing what's on him and what's on ownership, and what is he handcuffed? What is he able to do? Did they want him to keep Eberflus? But did he even have an option to try to get someone new? You never know with that stuff too. But where are you currently at with Poles? You feel like definitely needs to be fired?
I'm out. I don't want him picking the next head coach. I don't even know if he survives the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Like he's on a 1-year deal right now, right? So what legit head coach is going to come here when they're not on the same timeline? Doesn't make too much sense. I think he's done more bad than good for this team. After that, at the beginning of the season, I was good with Poles, but all throughout the offseason, I was like, all right, what are we doing at the offensive line? I was preaching to get Connor Williams. Like, can we invest more in the offensive line? These Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton, Kirana Magaji, like they're not solutions. And it's like we've seen them miss more than make hits on a lot of draft picks and free agencies and trades. And I'm like, and as we got to see it develop through the course of this season, the stock was high at the beginning of the season, but now the stock is real low because we're seeing his draft picks, we're seeing his trades turn out, and I think he's done more bad than good. I don't believe that Carolina Panthers trade is as good as we initially thought it was a fleece. Like, we got Caleb. He's been looking good. I'm a big fan of Caleb. That still is going to take 3 more years to evaluate that side of the trade. Bryce Young, he's looking pretty good the last few weeks, right, since being benched. We got DJ Moore. Love DJ Moore. Was a big fan of him when he was in Carolina. Even the year prior to that trade, when they were talking about trade rumors, I was like, we should trade for DJ Moore. That same year that like we got Chase Claypool, and then the next 2 picks, a punter like Torrey Taylor's good and all, but we didn't need to use that a 4th round pick. You can get solid depth or rotational players or Swift, like even starters in the 4th round. And then Tyreek Stevenson was a part of that trade, and he cost us this season. And I think he won't even be on this team next season, to be honest with you. Especially if Poles is not there. Even if Poles is there and you get a head coach like Vrabel and you just know he doesn't want to deal with that and just wants to send a message like, nah, what you did against the Commanders, this is what should have happened. You should have been cut or benched or something, you know what I mean? And then we have the 2nd round pick left from that trade, and I don't trust Poles to make that because what good draft picks has he actually had outside of the 1st round, right?
Sure.
And that's like Kirana Magaji. Maybe he's more of a guard. I think they're going to put him at guard this week. I think Braxton Jones is healthy again. So maybe he's more of a guard, but like I can't think like Brisker, solid player, right? But he's always injured. Like he's concussion, and I know you can go down the whole list, and then his trades. Chase Claypool, Keenan Allen. I mean, I was super excited about Keenan Allen. I'd be hypocritical if I said I wasn't, but he's had a lot of drops this year, and he's obviously old, and we weren't expecting him to play every game, but that's just kind of my initial 2 thoughts on Ryan Poles. I'm out. I don't want to pick in the next head coach. Like you mentioned, who knows how much he's handcuffed with ownership and the higher ups, but if we have to assume he's the GM and he's making these decisions, I know like the timeline is weird when he hired Matt Eberflus. Like he was hired, and then like Matt Eberflus was hired like 2 days after or something. So whether he fully made that decision or not, who knows? But if we're assuming that he's making these decisions, he's the GM. I would give him like a C- grade on everything he's done. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like a lot of the way things have swayed have definitely not gone in his favor. And I'd be interested too. I don't know too much about looking back of like guys like Brisker, like if he had a history of being injury prone. I know with the Bears, he's like never played a full season. It seems like he's constantly on IR. Is he kind of even looking that way with like Kyler Gordon, who's been phenomenal late, but he's been kind of injury prone too in the past. And the Stevenson thing, he looks so good, and then you see him kind of tail off. And I wonder if that stuff with a good head coach would have made him a lot better of a player and handled all the BS like a guy like Tomlin, who deals with guys like Pickens or Antonio Brown, and is able to take those guys with like they're a little bit more got a little bit more to deal with off the field and find ways to get them locked in. But Yeah, definitely have had a lot of things not go in his favor. So I think a clean slate too wouldn't be a bad option either.
Yeah, or if we have to like extend him so we can get like a legit head coach, like I don't know what
Mhm.
coach is gonna come here if the GM is on the hot seat. We got Avery in the purple app chat saying F Stevenson. Doesn't like Tyreek. Stevenson is good. He just runs his mouth and focuses more on talking shit than playing well. That's what Avery in the purple app said. Not a big
Yeah,
fan.
yeah. I
Um,
feel like that stuff like that's tricky when you look at players. Like I'm sure that's probably what got him to where he is just that like that arrogance and being competitive, but also I don't know if you'd call it competitive when you get to a point where you're costing your team with penalties, with dumb plays, with stuff like
he's always
that.
got. He averages like one personal foul a game, like always costing the team
Hmm.
a loss. But yeah, I'm out on Ryan Poles. I'm not too sold on him staying, and it would be interesting to see. Maybe Kevin Warren wants to kind of find his own GM, and maybe that's Ian Cunningham from within. But lots of unknowns and question marks and pieces that may or may not be moved after the end of this season.
What were your thoughts on that Lions game with how things were handled, and how much of it do you feel like goes on Caleb Williams? How much do you feel like goes on Thomas Brown? How much on Eberflus? Obviously, the timeout was pretty obvious that needed to be called, but it's kind of interesting just watching it and watching all the press conferences after and seeing, um, seeing Caleb Williams' thought process too. Of like, it didn't seem like he really understood the scenario too. Of they just needed a field goal and he was taking a shot for the end zone. And what were your thoughts on the end of how that game played out?
Well, I thought I was like on E as a Bears fan prior to that game. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna stress about this game. We're gonna get blown out or whatever. Because I forgot who we played the week before. I think it was the Vikings or whatnot. And we had that terrible OT loss or whatnot. So I'm like, you know what? This game is gonna be. I'm just gonna enjoy the Thanksgiving Day, watch the Bears as I, would watch any Thanksgiving game. I had money on Jameer Gibbs over rushing yards because anyone that plays against the Bears defense, the running back is gonna get hit the over in the rushing yards. But as the game was kind of progressing, and I was like, just cheering because I'm a Bears fan. It's like, all right, we're playing the best team in the league. We're staying in it. And then as we had that second half comeback and Caleb Williams' fourth quarter comeback, I was excited more for Caleb, to have that fourth quarter comeback on his resume that's gotten stolen from him like 3 times prior that season with the Commanders, the Packers, and the Vikings. And then how it all like, all right, we're driving down the field. He had the penalty on Keenan Allen that was a stupid hands to the face, and those refs were brutal that game. I was really upset with those refs. And as like we're driving down the field, like we're at half point, we got 2 timeouts, and then like I was livid. I was like, you would thought it was like week one against the Packers or like the Eagles Bears double doink game. How mad like I was like wasn't supposed to be mad, but like the fact is like that was a sign that Eberflus had to go. I don't just because Caleb's a rookie, I'm not putting that solely like I wouldn't necessarily put any of that on him. You have a head coach and an offensive coordinator that are supposed to like support the rookie quarterback, right? And I wouldn't put much of that blame on Caleb. Obviously, he could have made a instinctual decision and kind of knew he was probably waiting for the coaches to do it, and then the coaches were probably, oh shoot, Caleb will do it, and then that's totally like on Eberflus, and that's not the first time he's done something stupid like that. He's terrible with the time management, the clock management, end of game situations, these timeouts that he never uses. It's crazy, and it's like yeah, I would. And then Thomas Brown could obviously like scream. Well, his mic cuts out. He's not on the field, so that's probably a disadvantage. But like his
Mm,
communications to Caleb, I think cuts out when the play clock is at like 10 or 15 seconds. You know what I mean? So he couldn't really do much from up there but wave his hands in the box that he's in. So definitely an Eberflus and Caleb. If he's not a rookie, maybe he steps in there like a Tom Brady or any veteran player would have kind of known that situation for sure.
yeah, definitely. I feel like you see guys like even Harbaugh in this last game and knowing all the rules of the game and even like that one kick and calling timeout at the right time, give him a chance to get that field goal. Um, like knowing the rules of how that works, where there's literally no one rushing you for a field goal, and it seems like Eberflus definitely knew the defense well, but not much of the decisions you got to make as a head coach.
Yeah, yeah. I was that was the last straw, and I'm surprised they actually did fire him. At the next day, he had the press conference. They fumbled the process there for sure, but they did it, and it's just stupid because we could have had like a Jim Harbaugh or someone legit prior to this season, and then the fact that they fired the head coach that they were so supportive of in the middle of the season for the first time in franchise history is just another example of why this organization and this franchise is just a circus. And it all starts with the McCaskies and George, and they were more concerned about not swearing on Hard Knocks than they were about building the offensive line and having the right coaches in place.
Yeah, 100%.
We got Avery in the Purple App chat. He said, our O line blocks well on the left side, but Caleb's blind side is more important than the seven. Is more blunt. Is more open than a 7-Eleven on a Friday afternoon. What Caleb does, we can talk about that too here. Chase, how do you feel about Caleb throughout the course of the season? I know there's been some ups and downs, and he does make some rookie mistakes. But what are your initial thoughts so far on Caleb's rookie season?
It's definitely been exciting to watch him. I think what he's doing, if you saw him on a different team, he'd be performing even better with good coaching. But definitely those drives that he's had at the end of the game that were clutch. Not really used to seeing it as a Bears fan. I know last year when you'd see like Justin Fields gets the fourth quarter, it's usually when he'd start fumbling, start making bad decisions. And it seemed like he would get like pretty stressed out towards the end of games and not able to focus. And it seems like Caleb Williams has that in him where if he needs drive at the end of the game, they need to score, something like that, he has it in him to stay composed and hit those third down, fourth down throws that are needed. You've seen him miss a few, obviously, but yeah, I like what I'm seeing so far. It'd be interesting to see him with like a good head coach, good offensive coordinator, and see where that could take him. And then I would say, obviously, the big concern is the first halves and how long it takes him to get going, and you don't know where that starts. You always see him in press conference. It seems like the coaches don't even know why they have these slow starts, but definitely got to improve in the first half. But second half of games, he always looks strong.
Yeah, I think something that has been kind of underwhelming throughout the course of his rookie season is his deep ball accuracy. Like from week 1 to like even this past game against the Vikings, I don't know what's going on with his deep ball throws. He's just overthrowing them, playing them safe, not even giving his wide receiver an opportunity to catch the ball, and he's always overthrowing them. They're not in rhythm. And throughout the course of the season, you think that would get fixed, after week 15 compared to week 1, but it hasn't. And then him holding onto the ball, against that game against the Packers when he got sacked like twice before he went on that comeback for the field goal range, and then we saw it a couple times. I mean, we've seen it all season. Him holding onto the ball, trying to make these heroic, crazy plays. Like he's not in college anymore. You're not at USC. You can't just make these hero scrambles, and you're not like Justin Fields. Not to compare the two, but Justin Fields was a lot more elusive and athletic than Caleb, and could do those types of things. So there was spurts that he got the ball out quick in certain games, like the Panthers, and then we saw it against the Packers when Thomas Brown first took over. But I'm not really too sure. Those are just some things that I want to see him. And they're easy fixes. I mean, it's getting in rhythm with your wide receiver. So maybe that comes with like coaching and like practice. Like they're not being held responsible or accountable to like just be going out on the field, practice field, and practicing the routes. Consistently getting in rhythm. And the coaching, obviously, Thomas Brown, he did a good job at the beginning, but then he had become the head coach, and it kind of just went downhill again, right? So that was something I was worried about too. I understand that personality-wise, he was probably the best option for the head coach, but if the goal is to continue developing Caleb, just throw anyone at head coach, really, like Eric Washington or the special teams coordinator, and let Thomas Brown just focus on Caleb and call plays from the box, right? So, that's something that I would like to see him improve. Everything else has been good, right? He only had a couple fumbles this season, that strip sack fumble against the Vikings, but doesn't give the ball away. He has been clutch in those moments, and I get so mad like when we lost those games, whether it reflected the Bears record or not. Just like our rookie quarterback having 3 fourth quarter comebacks in his rookie season against 3 of the top teams in the NFC, right? That was against the Packers, the Vikings, and the Lions, and the Commanders. That's 4 that we had. So that's more or less kind of like my feelings on Caleb so far. Completely happy that we got him. People that keep saying should have kept Fields, we should have got the Hall. I mean, Caleb's putting up numbers and doing things that we never saw from Justin in 3 years, and didn't see with Justin for 6 games with the Steelers. Could barely get over 200 yards passing. Those fourth quarter comebacks, like you mentioned, end up in a strip sack fumble. He didn't have that clutch gene in him. And Caleb has missed a couple check downs and open throws that we've seen in the all 22, on Wednesdays or Tuesdays that these experts share. But definitely happy that we went the Caleb route for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting too with like not turning the ball over and the interceptions, and you wonder how much of it too has to do with him trying to keep that going and not turn the ball over, and how much that's leading to sacks. And I know I've seen analysts talk about how like the sack is more of an O-line stat typically, where interceptions fall more on the quarterback, and how much of it is now he's just trying not to risk it to avoid turning the ball over versus being a little bit more risky and making those hard throws. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things progress and see him with an actually good, solid OC. Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, leading up to Thomas Brown taking over, seeing how he would do as head coach. It's been good to kind of see him get a little bit of a test run and kind of really put to rest that we're going to need to go.
Yeah, he's not the answer.
Put to rest really quick when he took over as head coach. But at least you got to see it a little bit too, which was nice.
Even as a offensive coordinator, right? Maybe it would have been better off if he wasn't the interim head coach and kind of see if he could be the next offensive coordinator for next season, depending on who we bring in as a head coach if they wanted to keep him. Because prior to him becoming the interim head coach, I think he was doing really well up in the box. I don't think he's doing as well on the field. And that's probably maybe one reason he'll never be a head coach and a play caller at the same time. He might be a head coach, but maybe he has someone else calling the plays if he really needs to be up in the sky booth there. But yeah, I'm glad we put that to bed. I was all in support of him having success and being an option as an offensive coordinator, not necessarily a head coach.
Sure.
But so happy that that's over with, so we don't have to have that discussion. Because before he even has done one thing, people were calling him, "Oh, we got the next Mike Tomlin."
Yeah, 100%. I mean, his demeanor in interviews gets you excited. Like when I see him on the podium versus Eberflus, it's a night and day difference and taking accountability, and definitely similar demeanor to Tomlin, but not getting the same results during the games.
It's just frustrating that he was in the building the whole time and he could have been the offensive coordinator instead of Shane Waldron for like this season. This season has been such a shit show that I forgot that we had Shane Waldron as the offensive coordinator for a minute.
Yeah, I saw a stat of the only like 2 OCs that were fired this year were Waldron and then the Bears coordinator last year.
I didn't even think about that. I forgot he got fired.
The OCs that have been fired were both former Bears OCs.
That's miserable. Poor Justin and poor Caleb. Since we're kind of on that topic, I got something fun for you. Rank your top 3 Matt Eberflus losses, whether from 22, 23, or 24. Well, if you could think that far in you might have recent memory bias, but if you could think back, he's got all 3 seasons, 2.5.
Yeah, I feel like I remember mostly from this season. I know last year they had some close ones where they almost came back, but I feel like last year I can't remember the exact specifics of the games as well. But I feel like Commanders got to be number 1. Just that Hail Mary, which derailed the whole season. I think Lions, threw up there is one that falls on him. And I don't know, the 3 I feel like the biggest from this season, which I remember most, is the Packers one too, and not running that extra play before and just letting the clock run and before that kick. I throw those as my top 3.
He had another timeout in his pocket in that game too, I believe, right?
Yeah, another timeout too. They just sat on. What would you rank as your top 3?
Hail Mary has to be number 1. The fact that he doubled down, saying that play, that 13 yards didn't matter, which it did. And the fact that if it didn't have so much repercussions, like for the rest of the season, I wouldn't maybe rank it so high, but it literally was what cost this team its 2024 season. Unfortunately, that Lions game, you got to put in there that that's the reason why he got fired. That was just dumb. That was just stupid. And the fact that he always doubles down on his mistakes. He never just wants to admit that he's wrong, hold himself. Like, I think that's also why the players got fed up too, and Jalen Johnson like crashed out on him. Is like, if any press conference, I listen to a lot of ESPN 1000 Chicago and stuff. Like every press conference or post game radio talk show, he doubled down on it. He's like, yo, that's a great decision we made, or whatever. It's like, dude, idiot. If I'm doing maybe not such an obvious one, I don't know if you remember that Denver Broncos game last season, like week 6. Like,
oh
he had
yeah,
a bunch of timeouts and whether he should kick a field goal or not. And obviously Justin got strip sack fumbled on that last drive, but clock management was terrible on that one. And then maybe even like putting that Patriots or Cardinals loss on there, just because the Patriots, they like just straight up quit. They didn't play. In the Cardinals game, we were kind of in it, and then he had that terrible like defensive play before the half when they had that like 6-yard touchdown. Right? If that didn't happen, maybe they're still in that game.
Yeah, I think it's that Cardinals game too, maybe where they're interviewing him at halftime. They're like, "What do you need to do to change the game?" And he's like, "We just gotta stay together." And you could tell he just like could not move.
I forgot what he said. Something stupid, right? Or the lines when he's like,
at halftime, clowning him.
Yeah, he's a joke, man. He good defensive play caller. I'll tell you that, but good defensive mind, just head coach, not too good. So we got Lions versus Bears. That's this Sunday. Usually with our guest of the week, we had a lot of guests of the week at the beginning of the season. And we talked, all right, injuries, bold predictions. What are you looking forward to most? We can go through a couple of those exercises, but this game is kind of pointless, right? But I think the injuries is Jalen Johnson, I think, is questionable. Honestly, I didn't even get a chance to look at the injury report since for yesterday. But what would you like to see this week versus the Lions from our beloved Chicago Bears?
I think a good first half. I would love to see that. Just offense playing well in the first half. Defense, I'm not really expecting too much out of this week. I don't know if the defense has it in them.
Jameer Gibbs over rushing yards. I already put it in. So
yeah. Defense, I'm not expecting too much. I think I'd be pretty excited to see a good first half from the Bears offense. That would be something I'd love to see.
Okay, that's not asking for much.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, expectations got pretty low at this point.
That's crazy. Yeah, a good first half would be good. I would love to just kind of see a little bit more effort from everybody. I think everyone's clocked out and already booked their tickets to Cancun, Ibiza, wherever they're going, Brazil, like for the off season, and just Caleb continuing to grow and not die out there. Like, can you protect him? I think Braxton Jones playing, so that's good. But Caleb just continuing to grow. Let's hit some deep balls. There's a lot of injuries on the line, so even though they're a really good team and a top contender for the Super Bowl, they have a lot of injuries. So we could take advantage and try to get Caleb some good reps in there and see how that goes.
Yeah, with this running challenge too coming up, I feel like this Lions game, it looks like it'd be pretty daunting, but I think with the injuries for the Lions and then maybe them potentially taking out starters towards the end of the game could keep the spread a little bit closer and not be as much of a beatdown. So I'm sure Dan Campbell has that in his mind towards the end of the game. Pull some of the starters out, make sure, keeping everyone healthy, especially against the 4-10 Bears team right now.
Yeah, you got to be thinking about those miles. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
We're just gonna go into score predictions here. You have a score prediction that how you might think, and maybe that score prediction's different than what you might hope it might be.
I think I'm thinking maybe like 35 Lions, Bears like 20.
Damn,
We'll go.
You might have to run 15 miles.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll see how things go.
Now, are you a running background? Did you do cross country and track back in your day, whether it was high school or college, or?
No, I grew up playing football most of my life. I played in high school. I played D3 college football.
Okay.
And right after college, I just kind of missed.
Slot receiver? Were you a slot receiver?
So in high school, I was actually running back and linebacker, and then college switched to safety.
Okay.
Yeah. definitely was undersized when I got to college. I got to college and we get into like Oklahoma's freshman year, and I was playing linebacker, and I was just getting my bell rung every play with the big lineman. I'm like, I gotta switch to DB. My brain cannot take this.
Damn.
And end up like Brisker at that point, so had to make a switch. And then and then I got to the end of college. After that, I got into some running. I signed up for a marathon, did the Chicago Marathon, and kind of got addicted to it. So slowly started increasing the races that I did, and started getting into ultra running, and done all sorts of races. I've done one that's been really fun. It's called the Backyard Ultra. Have you heard of that before?
No.
So it's kind of a newer format. It's a pretty insane race. So you have tents set up, and there's a start line, which is the same as the finish line. And it's usually like in the woods, and you'll do a 4.2-mile run, and you have an hour to complete it. And whatever time is left in that hour, you could spend resting, and you keep going until there's one person left, until you quit, or until you don't make a time. So this race could go on for days, and you're doing 4.2 miles every hour. So it's pretty nuts race. But it's pretty fun too, because you got to kind of figure out when you're going to eat. You got to squeeze in like 5-minute naps. It's a fun ultra.
Damn. And so you got running as a hobby, and I think I saw you're a gym owner too.
Yes, yeah, I own a gym in Northbrook, Illinois, which is with no traffic, like 40 minutes out from Chicago. I do like group training. I do one-on-one training, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we forgot to kind of do little icebreakers at the beginning. We jumped right into it, but assuming you're born and raised in Illinois and Chicago, or?
Yeah, born and raised in Illinois, northwest suburb of Chicago, and then went to school in Bloomington, Illinois, and then came back. Now still kind of in the suburbs of Chicago again.
Okay, cool. And you've been doing is content creation something you do for fun, or it's like part-time, full-time with the gym, or saw you've done a lot of cool videos and stuff even prior to this challenge?
Yeah, so I started doing content creation just as a way to kind of bring attention to training, and my goal is eventually to open up a gym. About 3 years ago, I opened up a gym, but it kind of started off with that, just giving form tutorials, fitness stuff, fitness tips, all that sort of stuff. And then as I've started doing these races, I kind of use my personal page to document what I've been doing for the races, and just kind of the training for what I've done for like Ironman, 100-miler, 200-miler. I did 100 miles on a treadmill earlier this year. So I document kind of what I do in that process leading up to the race. And now it's kind of some downtime for races. So I'm getting into some side quests. So I figured with the Bears season going the way it was, that this would be kind of a fun thing to do in the off season, and then get back to racing in March next year.
Good for you, man. I'm active. I'm not like a runner, but I do running and cardio just for cut out some cal so I can fit in my beers for football Sunday. But
here you go.
Each month I try to average between 30 to 40 miles a month. Every year we even do it as a community. We do the 75-day hard.
Oh yeah.
We do the 45-day hard version.
Oh, nice.
I can't go 75 days without a drink, but every year for the last like 3 or 4 years, I've done the 45-day hard challenge, where you 2 workouts a day for 45 minutes. One has to be cardio based. You read a book, gallon of water, no alcohol, and I guess a dietary goal of some sort. So we will be doing that at the beginning. We're doing some traveling at the beginning of January, so maybe starting February, like just to kind of have a month one day. And we usually I invite the community members to do it and stuff like that. So last year we had good maybe like 10, 15 people that do it. Then I got family and friends that also do it, prior to me having the content page. So I usually do that for a good cleanse at some point in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's awesome. My girlfriend, actually, she does social media too, but her first thing she ever posted on TikTok was the 75 hard challenge, and her like first video did really well. So a lot of people were tuned in, and that's kind of how her page took off, was just documenting like.
Oh, really?
But yeah, if you ever look for it, hers is at Riley Jade Fit.
Okay.
But maybe her first videos, a lot of people use the sound for it.
A couple of years ago, I've seen some people like make some videos about it. I might have actually seen one of her videos like a couple years ago, when it just like randomly, how TikTok's always listening. You say 75. Now I'm gonna get 75-day hard challenge, and then it's gonna pop up on my phone over here.
That's a tough challenge. How's it been for you? Like doing that challenge? How easy is it to balance everything? Is it pretty tough? Or
Just depends on what point of my life it was. Like at one point I had like the full-time job, and then I also have a couple businesses. Then like one time I just had the businesses, and now I have like the content where in my businesses, and the content is just tedious like for post-production stuff. So like after this stream I'll cut it up, I'll clip a bunch of stuff, I'll put it on the podcast and Spotify, and that just is a whole process itself. So I'm curious how I'm gonna time manage. Time management is key for this challenge, especially if you're involved in a bunch of different things like myself. That's the biggest thing. So I'm curious how I'm gonna do time manage to fit 2 workouts in. They're 45-minute workouts. You can technically do them in one visit to the gym. Just one has to be 45 minutes of cardio, and the other has to be strength based or whatever. So interested to see when I cross that road how that time management will be, because I dedicate a lot of hours investing into this sweat equity for this page in the community to post out content, because I don't really have like an editor. I mean, I do, it just costs money. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, you gotta wear a lot of hats too, and trying to get things going, especially with content and getting it all out.
for sure. You want to do some Bears trivia before we head? Well, we want to know if you had any bold predictions for the Lions game. That was one question we usually ask the guests for the upcoming Bears matchup. I know the Bears are in a tough spot right now, but maybe that bold prediction is more bold for the Bears than it would be for any other team playing on Sunday.
Ooh, let's see. Bold prediction. I'm gonna throw out there that the Bulls are gonna force the Bears are gonna force a lot of turnovers. I'm gonna say three turnovers forced by the defense.
Okay. Hey, that's a good one. And Jared Goff is pretty questionable in cold weather, so I like that. And that's pretty bold for this defense right now.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you got?
So I duplicated my agenda from our last guest of the week, right? And for the bold predictions, it was on here. I don't know who they were playing. I'd have to go back and look, but it said Caleb Williams' first 3 touchdown passing game and 300 plus passing yards. But obviously, I'm going to delete the first. I'm going to say Caleb Williams 3 touchdown passing game and 300 plus passing yards. I'm going to keep it what it was before. As I saw that, I think this Lions defense is pretty banged up, right? So it might be an opportunity for us to get some points on the board. It's at home. It's cold. The Lions don't like to play outside, so we'll see how that goes.
I like it.
All right, let's do a couple quick Bears trivia, and if you get it right or wrong, it's either way, it's going to get clipped and put out there. So let's see how big of a Bears fan Chase is. All right, they're pretty like they're not too difficult. Let's start out with one. Let's see here. Who was the Bears' first-round draft pick in the 2015 NFL Draft?
(2015)
Can't put the room music. It's copyrighted.
Trubisky? Or what year was he?
2015? No, not Trubisky. Trubisky was 2017, I believe.
Who was 2015?
Kevin White.
Oh, dang.
Good old Kevin White.
Long tenure with the Bears.
Yeah. He had so much promise. We thought it was going to be the next Megatron.
Yeah.
Let's do this question. I didn't post this one yet for my Arizona tailgate, but I went around and asking Bears fans questions at the tailgate. I didn't post this one yet, so you didn't have an opportunity to see this. So, who has the most receptions in a single season in Chicago Bears history? I'll give you a hint. It's not anyone from like the 60s or 70s. It's relatively recent, so you don't have to like guess like Willie Gault or something.
First team in a season, relatively recent.
The last 20 years.
Last 20 years. Is Alshon Jeffrey?
Close. I'll give you another guess.
Hussein Muhammad?
No. Brandon Marshall.
Oh, Brandon Marshall. Yeah, played together.
So you're close. Dang. You're on the other side of the field there. He had 118 receptions in a single season. Want to take a guess at who's number 2 on that list? Relatively recent again.
Are they currently on the Bears?
No. I think he currently still plays in the NFL, but that might be a stretch.
Give it to me. Who is it?
Allen Robinson with 102.
Oh, okay.
All right, we'll give you one last one here. Who has the most career touchdowns in Chicago Bears history?
Ooh, most career touchdowns. Hey, these are tough. I know the all-time score leader is Robbie Gould. Touchdowns, though. Touchdowns. All-time touchdowns. Scoring touchdowns? Throwing touchdowns?
Just touchdowns.
Most scored?
Not like it's not a quarterback. Not like a passing touchdown.
Quarterback?
Yeah. It's not a trick question either.
Yeah, let's see. Most touchdowns. It's got to be a running back, I would think. Let's see. I'm going rogue. Thomas Jones?
No, Walter Payton.
Oh, dang.
Walter Payton, 125 touchdowns. Thank you.
Wow.
That segment is sponsored by ChatGPT.
ChatGPT 0 for 4.
I got to put ChatGPT versus Chase.
Yeah, not doing too well.
What I was going to say, I was thinking about maybe doing your challenge. But
Let's do it. Run it.
But I have some travel obligation, so I can't do it for the Lions or the Seahawks game because I'm going to Europe to visit my girlfriend on the 27th or something. So I don't have enough time between the Lions and Seahawks. But we can clip this. I'll do the challenge for the Packers game.
I like it.
Let's do it for the Seahawks game because I feel like that might be a closer game if Geno's hurt. Yeah. But I will do it on record. We'll clip it. I'm going to run. No, I'm not going to run a mile. I'm going to complete. My fat ass cannot run 15 miles, all right? I'm going to complete a mile for every point that the Bears lose by against the Green Bay Packers, the last game of the season. And I'm going to probably do it at Planet Fitness. I'll probably go live for it, assuming they're going to lose. But hopefully they already got something secure. They're putting it in the backup, and we have some pride that day, hopefully. But I almost forgot to mention it. I'm going to do that challenge for the Packers game. So me and Chase hopefully don't have to run any miles, but
love it.
I could probably do it that same night, but I might have to do it the next day, depending on schedule. But I'm just throwing out there. I will complete a mile for every point that the Bears lose by against the Packers, I think, on January 14th, the last game of the season.
I love it.
And I'll be going
something I'm trying to figure out still, so maybe you guys could help, but what should I do after a Bears win? I know we don't really have to think about that too much.
We
maybe
have to talk about the insider trading on the Bulls game. There's no way you thought the Bulls were good. You knew. I was like, what against the Celtics? Because we had a Sweat the Bet live stream, and our boy Oscar in the chat. He's a day one community member. He's giving us updates because we watched the Thursday Night Football and it's called Sweat the Bet, a live stream series. He's like, the Bulls are winning, or they're only down by 6 or whatever. And I was like, look, Chase. I remember I saw your video. I was like, oh. Yeah. Chase has got a challenge for that or whatever, and I was like, wow, the Bulls have been playing pretty well. They've actually been relatively decent this year, better than we actually thought after trading DeMar and Caruso. But I was like, there's no way they won, and you bailed out of a loss to the Celtics.
That one I was prepared to run quite a few miles, but Bulls somehow pulled through.
In terms of what you should do for a Bears win. This season, I don't think we're gonna have another one. So get your cards. Get your cards.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know.
I was thinking
drink a beer for every point they win by. Celebratory beer.
That'd be pretty brutal. That'd be a challenge in its own.
Well, they're only gonna win by like 2 points if they ever do win a game.
Yeah, like try to find maybe an opposing fan, and they have to run it if the Bears win.
Yeah, if you can find like another content creator who's like a fan of that team, you kind of have to like do the bet simultaneously with them and not like after the fact. You know what I mean? So,
100%.
Who are they playing though? We usually our guest of the week includes creators from the opposing team. The issue with the guest of the week series for me is like getting people to like accept the DMs half the time. You know, like that we don't always check it or whatnot. So. We used to. I don't know if we know anyone that's a Lions or Packers fan or Seahawks fan. So yeah, you're gonna have to do some DM slide and see.
Do again.
Find some creators that want to do that challenge with you, or I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's gonna be. I don't think you need to stress about it too much because I don't think.
I feel like next year I can start to figure it out.
No, for sure. And this is the only time I'm gonna do that challenge because there's no way I'm running. I can risk running anywhere between 1 to 25 miles the next day after a Bears loss because they can lose by 1 in a heartbreaker or lose by 25 in a blowout.
I'll send you some fueling tips if the Packers game gets out of hand.
Yeah, I'm gonna be carbon up, and like I said, I'll be completing a mile. So it's a combination of me walking and running on the treadmill. It would help me give me a good head start though on the mile goals that I have each month, was about 30 to 40 miles per month. So
knock it out in one day,
right? Oh my gosh, if they lose by 40, Jesus. I don't even know what I got myself into here. That I might regret this challenge, but for the content, I'll ride with you. You're not gonna be alone in this one.
I love it.
But Chase, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you being the guest of the week. I'm gonna clip a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna upload over the next few days, so I'll tag you. And we appreciate your time here on a Saturday afternoon. I know we got a lot of football going on and stuff. But appreciate you being on here and sharing your thoughts on the Bears. And hopefully we can continue to connect, collab, and get you on here again in the near future.
I love it. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Appreciate it, Chase. Have a good weekend, man. Happy holidays and Happy New Year's.
You too. Take it easy. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys. That was Chase, and we just got ourselves into... All right. For the Bears-Packers game, I have to complete a mile for every point they lose by. I don't know what I just did to myself there, but it was the heat of the moment, and we got it done. But that's going to be today's stream chat. It was a fun Bears talk day with Chase ahead of this Bears-Lions game. Like I was telling Chase, and as you guys heard me talk about plenty of times before, we're going to try to get this guest of the week ramped up to have it on a consistent weekly basis. So stay tuned for that. Our next stream is going to be our watch party for the Bears-Lions tomorrow. Going to be a jersey giveaway. We're going to be doing a jersey giveaway for the Bears versus Lions. So you want to join that stream. We're going to be live on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and not TikTok. I just realized that the audio was probably not working on TikTok, so I apologize for everyone who tuned into that stream. Sincerely apologize for that. We'll get that fixed. I have to figure out that. And then everyone enjoy the rest of the weekend. Hopefully I see you in tomorrow's stream for our watch party. I love y'all. Bear down. Peace.